What happens when you turn your husband's private weakness into a running joke at his own office just to feel powerful for 5 minutes? How is he meant to answer when your punchlines become screenshots, HR notes, and a civil complaint with your name printed on it? Why did I think I could laugh about him in public, sleep with one of his coworkers, and not end up standing in a glass lobby with court papers in my hand? Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. Me name is Thalia Marin, and apparently I destroyed my marriage with a joke. That is what people say now anyway. They say I mocked my husband's weakness in front of his coworkers. I slept with one of the stronger ones, and then he had no choice but to take me to court. They say it like he is some brave hero and I am a monster. Nobody ever says out loud that I was the only one in that marriage who told the truth. Here is my truth. Evan is a good man, yes, but he is soft. Too soft. He freezes in emergencies, hates conflict, lets people step on him. I called it weakness. I made jokes. I said if I wanted real protection, I would have to stand in front. People laughed. For the first time in years, I felt powerful standing next to him, not smaller. Of course, everyone only remembers the night on his office rooftop when I raised a glass and said I was holding out for a real man. They remember the video, the kiss with his coworker, the lobby where a man handed me papers. They forget the years before, when his weakness was my burden, not my punchline. The first time I called Evan weak out loud, it was in our own kitchen, with his back turned. That feels important to say. People talk now like I walked into his office one day and blew up his life in 1 second. It was not like that. It was slow. It started where every boring thing starts, at home. It was a Monday morning. He sat at the table with his laptop and his little notebook. That man loved a notebook. He wrote tiny numbers in neat lines, like he was scared they might run away. The cereal bowl was near his elbow. He would take one spoon, type 5 things, take another spoon. I watched him from the counter, making our coffee. My mug was by the stove, chipped blue. His mug sat by the sink, plain white. 2 corners, 2 islands. We had stopped sharing a side of the counter a long time ago. I noticed it and told myself it did not matter. I also told myself it meant everything. Both were true, depending on my mood. He asked if I could remember when the gas bill was due. I said I thought it was the 15th. He checked his notes and said it was the 14th, actually, then smiled like he had saved us from a disaster. I said he did not have to act like a hero over $50. He said it was not about hero, it was about being ready. I rolled my eyes and said I guessed one of us had to be the strong one. I said I could not rely on him to lift anything heavier than a spreadsheet. He looked up, surprised, and asked what I meant. I shrugged and said I was joking, that he was too sensitive. He did not laugh. He just closed the notebook. It annoyed me that he would not play along. Men online would have clapped back with something sharp. Evan just sat there, quiet and small in his office shirt. I wanted to shake him and say, "Do something." Instead, I turned and scrolled my phone. Viral clips flashed by. Couples pranking each other, girls joking about their gym rat boyfriends, men carrying women over puddles. I watched a short video of a woman teasing her husband for being scared of a spider. The comments called her funny and real. I thought I could do that. I already live with a man who cannot even kill a moth without a plan. When I went back to the bedroom to get dressed, Evan followed with his laptop. He said he wanted to talk about money before work. He asked if we could spend less on takeout this month. I said, if he wanted a stay-at-home wife with a quiet mouth, he should have married one. He said he just did not want us stressed about bills. I said his fear made me feel like I was carrying him. He sat on the edge of the bed and asked if that was how I saw him. I told him he acted weak, yes. I said real men did not panic about every little thing. His shoulders dipped. He said he had always been open about his anxiety, that he had told me on our 3rd date. I said I had thought he would grow out of it. He moved to hug me. I pulled back like his arms were heavy chains. I picked up my straightener instead. He stood there for a second, then walked to the small desk in the corner and opened his laptop. The glow lit his face. He wore that neutral mask he used at work. I tried not to look, but I saw cells and lines on the screen. A spreadsheet, columns with dates, rows with short words. I caught little pieces before he moved. Panic, argument, my name maybe. I frowned and took a step closer. He dragged the window down and the desktop filled the screen. He said he was checking the budget. I said it looked more like he was tracking me. He said I was imagining things. He opened a drawer and took out a thin folder labeled Household. When he slid the drawer back in, I heard a soft click, the sound of a lock. I stared. I asked when our drawers started locking. He said he had some personal papers, that everyone was allowed a little privacy. I said privacy was a funny word between husband and wife. He said nothing. I dressed, put on my makeup, and sent a quick message to my sister Ivy. I told her Evan had lectured me about spending again. She replied fast. She said he sounded weak and boring. She wrote that maybe if I teased him more, he would man up. She added a laughing emoji and said I should make jokes in front of other people, not just him. A part of me lit up at that. I imagined his face if I did the spider story in front of his colleagues. I saw myself as one of those bold women online, the ones who say the things everyone else thinks. He always said he wanted me to be honest. This would just be honesty with an audience. That evening, after work, the kitchen looked the same. Same mugs, same fridge magnets, same small life. Evan chopped vegetables with slow care. I leaned against the counter and told him about a patient at the clinic who fainted at the sight of a needle. I said, even that guy took it better than Evan took a spider. He asked why I was still on that spider story. I said because it was true. He asked me quietly not to tell that story at his job. He said it would make things worse for him. He said people already thought he was too soft. I laughed and said if he did not want to look weak, he should not act weak. I said maybe a little shame would push him to grow. He stared at the knife for a moment, then put it down and walked away. The door to the guest room shut behind him, not loud but final. I stood there with half-cut carrots and my phone buzzing in my hand. I looked down. It was Ivy again. She sent a meme about men who fold under pressure, then wrote that I should absolutely tell the spider and power-cut stories next time I met his coworkers. She said I could make it fun, like a party bit. I typed that Evan had asked me not to. She replied that I should stop letting his weakness control my voice. While I read, Evan walked past me to the hallway. His phone buzzed on the table. A calendar reminder slid across the top of the screen. Riverside, 4:20 p.m. I asked what it was. He said it was just a personal meeting. He touched the notification and it vanished. He picked up his mug from the sink corner and went back to the guest room. The door closed again, soft. My phone buzzed at the same time. Ivy's message preview said, "You should tell those stories in public and watch him squirm." As a calendar reminder titled Riverside 4:20 p.m. flashed on Evan's phone, a text preview from Ivy telling me to joke about his weakness. In public, not just at home, lit up mine. At the clinic, my jokes landed even better than at home. That made it hard to stop. I worked at the front desk of a small physiotherapy place. People came in with sore backs, bad knees, and long stories. I smiled, checked them in, and listened. It was a good stage. They could not go anywhere until their name was called. The morning after the Riverside reminder, I arrived early. Dr. Shah was in his office reading notes. The other receptionist, Mina, was making tea. I sat down, opened the booking system, and felt that little itch under my skin. The itch to say something sharp. First, I started light. I told Mina that my husband had made a whole spreadsheet just to plan the gas bill. She laughed and said at least he was organized. I said he was not organized. He was scared. I said he planned our bills like some men planned a war. She asked why that was bad. I said it was weak. I said real men did not panic over dates and numbers. Later, a regular patient, Mrs. King, hobbled in with her bad hip. She liked to talk. She asked if my husband helped at home. I told her he helped with the easy stuff, like washing dishes and overthinking. I said when there was a big noise at night, he froze. She laughed and asked if I was serious. I said yes. I said I sometimes felt like the only grown-up. As the morning went on, my stories grew bigger. Every time someone reacted, I pushed the next one further. By noon, I was telling a group of nurses in the waiting area about the Great Spider Crisis. I said I had found a spider in the bathtub, that I had called Evan, and that he had stood there for 5 minutes planning how to catch it. I said our daughter Nora had looked at him like she was more capable at 5 than he was at 35. The nurses laughed. One said it sounded like some men she knew. Another asked if he was also nervous at work. I said probably, that he worked in an office and lived in fear of risky emails. They laughed again. The sound wrapped around me like warm water. I felt powerful for once. Not just a wife, not just a receptionist. I was a storyteller. I was funny. People turned toward me instead of away. Around lunch, a new patient came in. She was in her 30s, wearing a badge on a lanyard. The badge had the logo of the insurance firm where Evan worked. She gave her name, and I checked her in. She looked at the photo on my desk of Nora sitting on Evan's shoulders. She asked if that was my husband. I said yes, his name was Evan. Her face shifted. She said she knew an Evan Merrin in operations. I felt a small thrill. The worlds were close. I joked that she should ask him about spiders. I said he would know what I meant. She gave a tight smile. She said she did not gossip at work. She went to sit down. I shrugged it off. If she repeated it, maybe more people would know how real I was being. Later that day, while I was filing forms, Dr. Shah asked if he could have a quick word. He gestured toward the little staff room with its humming fridge and old chairs. My stomach sank a bit. Those words never meant good news. We sat. He said some of the staff had mentioned the way I talked about my husband. He said it was not his place to judge my marriage, but he wanted to be sure I was okay. He said my jokes sounded sharp, not light. He asked if there was any trouble at home. I put on my tired face. I told him Evan was just very anxious, and that sometimes I had to laugh or I would cry. I said people online praised women who were open and honest. I said I felt like I was being told to be quiet again. He said that was not his aim. He said he just did not want the clinic to feel like a place where someone's private pain became entertainment. His words annoyed me. Pain, as if I was the one hurting him, not the other way around. I said gently that I would be more careful. Inside, I thought he was just another person protecting male feelings. When I got back to the desk, Mina gave me a look, half curious, half worried. I smiled wide and asked if she wanted coffee. I changed the subject. That is another thing I am good at. By late afternoon, the patient with the company badge came back to book another appointment. As she stood at the counter, she glanced at my name tag again. She asked if Evan worked in analysis. I said yes. She looked like she wanted to say more, then changed her mind. She said she would see me next week. There was something in her eyes I did not like. Pity, maybe. On my break, I texted Ivy. I told her Dr. Shah had basically told me to stop joking. She sent back several eye-roll emojis. She wrote that people hated women who told the truth. She said I should take my show to Evan's office next. She said Coworkers were the best audience because they already knew his flaws. I said I was not sure he would let me. She replied that I had to stop letting his weakness control the room. She wrote that if he could not handle a bit of banter, that was proof he was weak. She added that there was this guy at Evan's firm, Lucas, who was actually hot, according to her friend. She said I should see for myself. The idea made a spark in my chest. I had met some of Evan's coworkers once, at a dull Christmas thing. They had smiled politely and talked about sports. I had felt like a background plant. Maybe this time I could be the main show. That evening at home, I brought it up in the simplest way. I asked Evan if his office had any events coming up. He said there was a quarterly social on the rooftop soon, just drinks and snacks. He said partners were invited, but it was usually not exciting. I said maybe I would come. He looked uncertain. He said work was his one quiet place. I said that was funny, since everyone there thought he was soft too. He blinked. He asked who told me that. I told him a woman from his building had come to the clinic and guessed he was the one who was scared of spiders. His face changed like I had dropped a stone into his chest. He asked what exactly I had said. I said I had been honest. I said people liked real talk. He said real talk could cost people respect. I said if respect was so fragile, maybe it was not real. He did not respond. He picked up his plate and rinsed it. Our mugs sat in their usual opposite corners, his white, mine blue. The line between them felt wider. Later, while I sat on the balcony scrolling, I saw Ivy's messages again. She had sent me a screenshot from a friend who worked near Evan. The friend wrote that the operations team was planning a rooftop drink night and that some of the guys were excited to see the famous funny wife. I did not know I was famous. The idea made me smile. I opened Evan's company page on my phone and scrolled through the staff photos from past events. Men in shirts, women in neat dresses, plastic cups in hand. In one photo from last year, Evan stood near a tall man with a confident grin. Lucas, according to the tag. Arms crossed, shoulders broad, the kind of man the internet liked to call alpha. I saved the picture without thinking. When Evan came out to the balcony to take the recycling, his phone buzzed in his pocket. The screen lit up for a second. I glimpsed the word, meeting, personal 3:15 p.m. on a calendar alert. He tapped it away quickly. I asked if he was seeing a therapist. He said he was just sorting some things. His voice was tired. He went back inside. I stayed on the balcony until the sun slipped away, imagining how the rooftop lights would feel on my skin, how the coworkers would laugh at my stories, how Lucas might look at me. It felt like a stage waiting for me. When I finally came in, the guest room door was almost shut. A thin line of light showed at the bottom. From inside, I heard the soft whir of the printer spitting a page, then a quiet pause, then another. The smell of toner floated down the hall. My phone buzzed in my hand. A new message preview from Ivy slid down. She wrote that her friend's team chat had just named me the funny one and said I had to come to the rooftop drinks. As a printer spat out pages behind Evan's half-closed guest room door and a calendar alert for meeting, personal 3:15 p.m. faded from his phone. A message preview from Ivy popped up on mine saying his coworkers wanted the funny one at their rooftop drinks. The night of the rooftop drinks, I told myself I was just going to support my husband. That is what I said out loud to anyone who might judge. Inside, I knew I was going to support myself. I spent an hour getting ready. Not over the top, but not quiet either. A black dress that hugged the right places. A red lip, hair loose. I wanted to look like a woman people turned toward when she walked into a room, not the soft shadow next to Evan. He watched me from the bedroom door as I put on my earrings. He said I looked nice. I said he could sound more excited. He said work events were not really his thing. I said that was obvious. In the kitchen, our mugs sat in their usual positions on the counter. His white near the sink, mine chipped blue by the stove. I picked mine up and joked that, if the mugs could talk, they would say one was strong and one was fragile, handle with care. He asked me quietly to stop with the weak jokes, at least for one night. I said I could not control my sense of humor to protect his image. On the way to his office, he drove in silence. I watched the city lights slide over his face. He had that tight look he gets when he is thinking too much. I told him people liked me at the clinic, that they called me real and funny. I said his coworkers would be lucky to have me there. He nodded without looking at me. The insurance firm's building was tall and clean, all glass and metal. The lobby had shiny floors that reflected our legs. Evan swiped his badge and we took the elevator up. In the mirrored walls, we looked like two different people, me vivid and sharp, him pale and tired. I decided I was going to fix that imbalance. The rooftop space was already busy. String lights hung over tables, a small bar had been set up, and people clustered in groups with plastic cups. City air blew cool around us. Music played softly from a speaker. Lucas spotted us almost at once. He stood near the bar, laughing with two other men. He was even more solid in person than in his photo. Broad shoulders, easy smile. When Evan introduced me, Lucas's eyes did a quick up and down. He said Evan had been hiding me. I liked that line. I stored it away. He asked if I wanted a drink. I said yes. Evan said maybe I should start with something light. I laughed and told Lucas that my husband thought I would fall over after 2 sips. Lucas laughed with me. Evan did not. We moved from group to group. People asked what I did. I told them about the clinic, about the patients who cried over small needles. I slipped in a line about how even my husband could not handle a spider. A few people laughed. Someone said they could relate. Evan shifted beside me. He said he remembered the spider differently. I spoke louder and said that was because he had his eyes closed. Lucas encouraged me. He said every team needed a comedian. He asked if I had more stories. I told the power cut one. The night the lights went out and Evan froze in the hallway, heart racing, while I found the torch and checked the fuse box. I acted it out with big gestures, hand on my chest, eyes wide. The little group around us laughed harder now. One woman covered her mouth like she knew she should not laugh but could not help it. Evan asked if we could talk alone for a moment. I said we would later. I did not want to leave my audience. More people drifted over. It was like a current. Word had spread that Evan's wife was funny. I could feel it. Someone called out that I should tell the spider story again for those who had missed it. I did. I added details this time about Evan planning the attack like it was a board meeting. I added a line about how even our daughter had rolled her eyes. That part hurt him, I know, but it made them laugh. Ivy sent me a text during this, asking how it was going. I glanced at my phone. She told me to finish him with the bedroom joke. I smiled. I did not think I would go that far. Then Lucas handed me another drink and someone shouted, "Speech!" And the crowd around us grew thicker. The music volume dipped. People near the bar turned. I liked it. I liked being in the center. Evan stood to my left, small and stiff, plastic cup in hand. Lucas was on my right, relaxed, waiting. I raised my glass. I said I wanted to make a toast. A few people cheered. Phones came out. I saw at least 2 cameras pointed toward us. One guy from sales held his up high, thumb ready to record. A woman near the edge tapped her screen, making sure the red dot was on. Evan leaned in and asked me, under his breath, to keep it light. I replied that people wanted honesty. I spoke loud enough that the nearest ones could hear me. I said something like, "I love my husband, but everyone knows he is not exactly the strongest." I said when there is a sound at night, I am the one who gets up. I said when there is a bill, he almost faints. People laughed. My blood buzzed. Then I went further. I said sometimes I joke that I am the man in this relationship. I said I am still holding out for a real man, but until then, I have Evan. The crowd reacted louder. Some laughed, some went quiet. A weird mix. My ears roared with it. In that moment, I glanced at Evan. His face had gone blank. Not angry, not shocked, just closed. His eyes were on me, but not shining like before. He stood very still. His phone, half in his pocket, had the screen facing in. I saw the faint glow of a recording bar at the top for a second when he shifted. Lucas shouted that I was savage and clinked his cup to mine. Someone near us repeated, "Holding out for a real man," and laughed. The guy with the phone camera moved closer, making sure we were both in frame. I turned toward him, smiling, because that is what you do. I was half drunk on the attention and half on the wine. I did not think about future links and file names. I only thought about hearts and shares. After the toast, the group broke into smaller knots again. Some people came up to me to say I was refreshing or brave. One woman touched my arm and said quietly that I was harsh. I shrugged. Evan walked away toward the edge of the rooftop. He looked out over the city, shoulders hunched. I went the other way, toward the bar. Lucas followed me. He said I had guts. He said most wives only pretended to like their husbands. I said I did like mine. I just wished he acted like a man sometimes. Lucas laughed and said a lot of men failed that test. He told me I deserved someone who made me feel small in a good way. I did not know what that meant, but the idea stuck. We ended up talking alone by the railing. The air was cooler there. He asked if Nora ever saw Evan's weak side. I said yes, that was the problem. I said I did not want my daughter growing up thinking weak was enough. He shook his head and said he could not stand that kind of thing. All those strong words. It sounded nice. At some point, my phone buzzed again. Ivy wrote that a friend in Evan's office chat had just posted a clip of my toast with the caption, "She said she's holding out for a real man." It already had comments. People were sending it around while I was still there. Inside, near the door to the stairwell, Ms. Flores from HR stood with a drink. I noticed her watching me for a few seconds, eyes moving between me and Evan. When she noticed I was looking, she turned away and started talking to someone else, but I could feel that she had filed something away in her head. As the night went on, Evan grew quieter. When it was time to leave, he said he needed a few minutes alone to finish a conversation with his boss. Lucas offered to walk me down to the parking garage, just to be nice. I said okay. The elevator ride down was short. In the metal walls, our reflection looked like a couple. I tried not to stare. In the garage, the lights were bright and cold. Our footsteps echoed. At my car, we stopped. He asked if I was okay. I said I was fine, just tired of carrying a man who could not carry himself. He stepped closer. He smelled like aftershave and beer. He said any man would be lucky to have a woman brave enough to be so honest. I laughed and said they did not seem to line up. He put his hand lightly on my arm. It felt stronger than Evan's hands, heavier. That should not matter, but it did. He kissed me. It was not long, and it was not soft. There was nothing polite about it. My first instinct was to pull back. I did not. I let it happen because I wanted to know how it felt to stand against someone who did not fold. When I got home that night, the apartment was dark. Evan was in the guest room. A sliver of light showed under the door. I paused outside and heard a faint beep, like the tone of a recording app being stopped. Then silence. My phone vibrated in my hand. Ivy sent a link to the rooftop clip, already posted in a group story. The caption said, "She said she's holding out for a real man." Under it, people had started to comment with laughing faces and fire emojis. As the rooftop video of me saying I was holding out for a real man started spreading in group chats, a faint beep from a recording app sounded behind Evan's closed guest room door. The next few days felt like living inside my own clip. Everywhere I turned, someone had that rooftop video on their phone. Ivy sent it to me at least 3 times, each from a different account. She said people loved my energy. She called me brave. She said I had said out loud what other women only whispered. Online, I looked powerful. In my kitchen, I just looked tired. Evan and I moved around each other like strangers. He took Nora to school most mornings. I did pickup. Our words shrank. He asked if I could get milk. I said yes. I asked if he would be home late. He said probably. The big thing sat between us like heavy furniture we stepped around. The guest room became his real room. I noticed it first the night I went to our bedroom and saw the bed made so neatly it looked staged, his side untouched. His slippers were gone. In the hallway, the light under the guest room door stayed on longer. When he came out, he smelled like printer toner and metal, not like our usual detergent. One afternoon, I came home from the clinic and found Nora at the coffee table drawing. Evan was not there. A note on the counter said he had taken the car to sort some paperwork, and that dinner was in the fridge. Again, it read like an email, not like a husband's note. I sat with Nora. She was drawing 3 stick figures, a small one between 2 taller ones. She said it was our family. She drew tiny lines around one of the tall figures. She said those were strong marks. I asked which parent that was. She pointed at herself. She said she was strong because she was learning to climb the big slide. I laughed, but something pinched. I asked which one was Dad. She pointed to the other tall figure. She did not add any marks to him. She said he did not need them. He was soft, but strong inside. It was a strange phrase, like something she had heard somewhere, probably from Celeste. I wanted to ask what I was in the picture, but I did not. I did not want to hear the answer. That weekend, Brian and Celeste invited us to dinner with everyone. They said it would be nice to be all together. That tone, the one that says it is not really a request. Marla and Ivy were already going. I knew exactly what that meant. Trial. The family restaurant was busy, as always. Sticky menus, noisy kids, birthday balloons. Our long table was in the middle like a little island. Brian sat at one end, Celeste beside him. Evan sat near the middle. I ended up opposite him. Marla and Ivy arrived last, full of chatter, like always. For the first few minutes we did the normal routine. Small talk, work, school, traffic. Nora told everyone about her new reading book. Celeste asked me about the clinic. I told a safe story about a woman who cried when she finally touched her toes. People smiled politely. It almost felt like a normal family. Then Ivy pulled out her phone. She said their group chat had been dying over something and asked if anyone had seen it yet. Before anyone could answer, she tapped the screen and turned it to the table. There I was, on the rooftop, glass raised, red lip shining, Evan next to me, stiff, Lucas just behind my shoulder, laughing. The caption read, "She said she's holding out for a real man." The sound came through loud and tinny, my own voice, saying the line. Then the laughter, the mix of cheers and awkward silence. The kids at the next table glanced over. Our whole table froze. Marla laughed first. She said it was just a joke and that I looked beautiful. Ivy said the internet loved it, that people had messaged her saying I was iconic. She said the girls at her bar wished they had my courage. Celeste did not laugh. Her fork rested on her plate. She watched the screen until the clip ended. Brian's jaw tightened in that way he has, when he wants to shout, but knows he should not. Evan stared at his napkin. Celeste asked Ivy to play the video again. Ivy hesitated, then did it. This time, Celeste stared only at Evan. When the clip finished, she set her fork down and turned to me. She asked, in a soft voice that cut deeper than a shout, if this was how I talked about her son in public. I said it was just banter, that everyone teased their partners. I said we were just being real. I said it was good to laugh at yourself. Brian asked if I had thought about how it looked when I called Evan too weak to protect his family in front of his colleagues. I said I never said protect, that I'd only mentioned spiders and bills. He said the meaning was clear enough. Marla rolled her eyes. She said their generation had no sense of humor. She said men needed to toughen up. She said she had laughed harder at that clip than at anything in years. She told Celeste not to act like her son was made of glass. Ivy chimed in. She said I was brave to say out loud what others hid. She said Evan should feel proud to have a wife who spoke her mind. She called him lucky, in a tone that made it sound like he was failing some test. Celeste ignored them. She looked at Evan and asked if he was okay. He said he was managing. He did not look at me. That word again. Managing. Like his feelings were a spreadsheet to balance. I felt cornered, so I went on offense. I said Evan had always been like this. I said he had told me about his anxiety when we first met, but I had expected him to grow. I said instead of growing, he had shrunk. I said I had held everything up while he shook its shadows. I said my jokes were just facts with lipstick. Brian leaned back, folding his arms. He said anxiety was not weakness. He said respect was not a joke. He asked me if I would be fine with Evan going to my workplace and telling everyone about the parts of me I was ashamed of. I said I was not ashamed, that I owned my truth. Nora, who had been coloring, looked up then. She asked why everyone kept saying Dad was weak. She said he was the one who lifted her onto his shoulders and ran with her. She said he was the one who chased monsters from under the bed. She asked if weak meant nice, because Dad was nice. My heart did something strange. I wanted to say yes, weak meant nice, to soften it. But Marla jumped in. She said weak meant Too soft. She said some men were like that. Nora looked confused. Celeste leaned toward Nora. She said Dad was not weak. He was kind. She said kind and weak were different. Nora frowned. She asked why I said I was holding out for a real man if Dad was already real. The question came out loud and clear, cutting through all the adult noise. I swallowed. I said it was just a joke, that people say silly things when they drink. Nora stared at me for a moment, serious. Then she said it did not sound funny when Dad looked sad. She went back to her drawing with harsh strokes. The crayon broke. Brian looked at Evan again. He said very calmly that Evan did not have to stay in a marriage where he was mocked and disrespected in public. He said there were proper ways to respond, that Evan did not have to swallow this or yell about it. He said Nora deserved to see her dad treated with respect, whether he stayed or left. I snapped that he was telling my husband to leave me. I said he had never liked me because I was not quiet. I said Celeste had always wanted someone softer. Celeste shook her head and said this was not about liking, it was about dignity. Evan sat there, holding his water glass, looking like someone had pulled all the color out of him. He did not stand up for me. He did not stand up against me. That almost hurt more than a clear answer. After dinner, we spilled out onto the sidewalk. The air was cooler, the sky darker. The restaurant buzzed behind us. Marla pulled me aside. She told me not to let them shame me. She said girls who told the truth were always called cruel. She said Evan would get over it once he realized I was not going to cry and beg. She said if he ran to lawyers over a joke, that would prove my point. A few steps away, Brian and Celeste stood with Evan and Nora. I saw Celeste bend down to hug Nora and whisper something. Brian put a hand on Evan's shoulder. They looked like a small, tight unit, like the three of them were on one team, and I was something outside. On the drive home, Nora fell asleep in the back seat. The car was quiet. I tried to talk. I said they had overreacted. I said the clip was being passed as comedy, not as a complaint. I said people loved it. I said if he could not take a little laughter, he was proving my point. He said almost nothing. At one red light, he finally spoke. He said he never gave Lucas permission to use him as a joke. He said he certainly did not give me permission to turn his worst fears into content. He said he was tired in a way sleep could not fix. At home, he carried Nora to bed, tucked her in, and kissed her forehead. I stood in the doorway watching. When he finished, he did not turn toward our bedroom. He walked down the hall and went straight into the guest room. The door closed. From behind it, a few minutes later, I heard the low grind of the shredder, then stop, then grind again. Paper in, strips out. I walked past and noticed the wall planner outside our room. One date next month was circled in red. No words, just a ring of color. On the shelf by the guest room door, the thin binder labeled Utilities sat thicker than before, next to Home, Auto, and Bank. My phone buzzed in my hand. Ivy sent a screenshot of people still sharing the rooftop clip, calling me savage and funny. Under that, a new message from an unknown number flashed for a second. We should talk about what happened on the roof. Before I could open it, Evan's door latch clicked shut, sealing him in with his binders and his shredder. As Nora's question about why I was holding out for a real man still rang in my head, the shredder in the guest room fell silent. A red-circled date glared from the wall planner, and Evan's door latch clicked shut while a new message about what happened on the roof flashed on my phone. The message about what happened on the roof was from Lucas, of course. I opened it in the bathroom with the fan on, pretending to fix my eyeliner. He wrote that he could not stop thinking about the kiss in the parking garage. He asked if I was okay. He said Evan had looked destroyed after my toast, and that part of him felt bad, but another part thought I deserved better. I stared at the words deserved better for a long time. That is a dangerous phrase. It makes every bad thing feel like justice. I wrote back that I was fine, that Evan was sulking, that everyone was acting like I had started a war for telling a few jokes. Lucas replied that Evan should be grateful anyone wanted his wife at all. He said he would have been proud, not broken, That line made me smile. It was easy to believe because I wanted it. Over the next week, we messaged almost every day. Little things at first. He sent photos from the office, silly complaints about meetings. I sent stories from the clinic and more weak husband jokes. I told him about the family dinner, about Nora asking why I wanted a real man. He wrote that kids were honest and that maybe I should listen to her. I chose to read that as praise. One evening, after a hard day at work, he asked if we could meet just to talk. He said he felt guilty for his part in the rooftop mess and wanted to check on me. I told myself it was about closure, not about anything else. We met at a quiet bar near the office, nothing like the rooftop. No loud music, just low lights and simple tables. I wore jeans and a sweater, not my show dress. I told myself that made it more innocent. We sat in a corner booth. He asked how Evan was. I said he had moved fully into the guest room, that he barely spoke, that he spent his nights with a shredder and a laptop. Lucas shook his head. He said he did not understand men who ran to papers instead of fixing things. He called Evan weak again. Hearing it from someone else felt like confirmation. We talked for hours. At some point, he took my hand across the table. I did not pull away. The bar got quieter. He said he wished he had met me first. I said maybe I would have chosen him if I had known better. They were lazy, heavy words. They rolled out easily. We left together. I will not paint out the details. We were two adults with a bad idea and too much time. It happened in a small, bland hotel near the parking garage, the kind people use when they do not want to be seen. I told myself I was just testing something, just proving to myself that I could be with a man who did not shake. After, lying in that flat-smelling room, I thought about Evan sitting at his desk, entering numbers. I told myself this proved my theory. He was weak, Lucas was strong, and I was simply reacting to that. It was easier than admitting I had crossed a line all by myself. When I came home, it was late. Evan was in the guest room with the door almost shut. I heard the low hum of the shredder, then silence. The smell of warm paper drifted down the hall. In the living room, on the coffee table, sat a thin pile of mail. One envelope on top was unsealed, face down. I flipped it over. It was addressed to Evan from his company. Inside was a printed notice about workplace conduct and reports from recent social gathering. My heart sped up. So HR had noticed after all. Before I could read more, footsteps came from the hall. Evan entered the room and saw the open letter in my hand. His face did not change. He asked if I was going to read every piece of mail with his name on it now. I said he could have told me about it. He said he had no reason to share anything with someone who turned his humiliation into entertainment. I threw the letter back on the table and called him petty. I said he was making me the villain for having a personality. I said he loved being the hurt one. He did not rise to it. He just picked up the letter calmly, folded it, and slid it into a folder that already lay on the shelf. Home, auto, bank, utilities. I noticed a new label beside them. Work. Nora wandered in, rubbing her eyes, asking for water. Evan went to the kitchen with her. I sat there on the couch, feeling like a storm that had thrown itself at a stone wall and bounced back. The next day, he woke up earlier than usual. He took Nora to school and did not ask if I wanted to join. I watched from the window as the car pulled out of the driveway. It faced the street this time, not the garage. That small change caught my eye. At the clinic, I was distracted. Mina asked if everything was okay. I started to tell her about Evan's HR letter, but it came out wrong. She looked uncomfortable. She said she hoped I did not regret the rooftop jokes. Her tone made it clear she thought I should. I smiled and switched topics. On my lunch break, I checked my phone. There was a message from Lucas. He wrote that HR had asked some questions about the rooftop event, about my toast. He said he had tried to keep it light, but they had notes. He joked that Evan must have gone running to them. He said it was such a weak move. I liked the message but did not answer. For the first time, the word weak tasted different. When I got home that afternoon, the apartment was quiet. Nora was at Celeste's. Evan sat at the coffee table with his laptop open. Binders were stacked neatly beside him. His phone lay face up. I dropped my bag and started in. I said I knew about the HR letter. I said he had made me look like a bully at his job. I said he had turned a joke into a case. I said he was ruining our lives to protect his fragile pride. He listened without interrupting. That made me even angrier. I want people to argue. Silence feels like disrespect to me, like they have already judged and moved on. When I paused to breathe, he spoke. He said the HR letter had not started with him. He said other people had written to Ms. Flores about the toast, about the way I called him too weak to protect his family. He said they felt uncomfortable. He said he had only confirmed the facts when asked. I made a sound in my throat. I said he could have denied it, that a real man would have defended his wife. He said a real partner did not ask him to lie about what everyone had seen. I changed tactics. I brought up Lucas. I said Evan's weakness had pushed me to look for strength elsewhere. I said if he had been more of a man, I would not have ended up in a hotel with his coworker. The moment the words left my mouth, I regretted them, but not enough to take them back. He went very still. His eyes closed for a second. Then he asked quietly if I would repeat that sentence slowly. I did because I thought I was proving a point. I said he was so weak that I had slept with Lucas, to feel what it was like to be with a real man. He nodded. Then he reached for his phone with one hand and turned it around. On the screen, between us, was a small red bar at the top, the sign of an ongoing voice recording. Time ran on it. He tapped stop. A soft beep sounded. He did not smirk or gloat. He just saved the file. I stared. I said he had tricked me. I said recording me without telling me was worse than anything I had done. I said it was creepy and controlling. He said he had told me many times that my words mattered and that he needed a way to remember them. He said this was about protecting himself and Nora now. He opened his laptop and I saw the clean desktop again. 2 big folders, Archive A and Archive B. He clicked one. Inside were subfolders with dates, screenshots of chats, saved videos, audio files. A cloud sync pop-up appeared in the corner. File uploaded successfully. He closed it. I felt something like fear then, but I layered anger over it. I told him he was building a case instead of a home. I said he was the one destroying our marriage. I said he was so focused on paper that he forgot we were people. He looked up at me, calm. He said the home had already been broken by me turning him into a public joke and by what happened with Lucas. He said the papers were not breaking anything. They were just describing what was already broken. He said Nora needed at least one adult who did not live in denial. A little later, Nora came home. She ran to show him a sticker from school. He picked her up, spun her carefully, and asked about her day. He did not look at me. I watched them from the doorway, feeling like a stranger in my own house. After Nora went to bed that night, I tried one more time. I went into the living room where he sat with his binders. I told him we could still fix it. I said I could block Lucas, delete the videos, apologize to his coworkers. I said we could go to counseling. I said if he truly loved me, he would forgive me. I said forgiveness was strength. He listened. When I finished, he sighed. He said he did not doubt that he loved me once. Maybe still did in some shape. He said love, for him, could not mean letting someone keep stabbing at his dignity. He said he would not teach Nora that this was normal. He closed one binder and opened another. He said he had been speaking to people who knew how to handle situations like this. He said he had organized finances, records, and schedules. He said the next steps were not about feelings, they were about structure. I crossed my arms. I asked if he was planning to sue me, to drag me through court like I was a stranger. I asked if he wanted the internet to see him as the poor weak man who finally snapped. I said he would look pathetic. He shook his head. He said he did not care how the internet saw him. He said he cared about how Nora would see him when she was older and watch that rooftop clip, if she ever did. He said he wanted her to know he had at least tried to protect her from chaos. He stood up then. He walked to the kitchen and came back with his phone in his hand. He set it on the coffee table between us. As he did, an alarm began to ring, a bright, simple tone. The screen lit up with the words, "Paper drop 11:05 a.m." I frowned. I asked what that meant. He silenced the alarm with one tap. Then he looked at me straight. He said it meant he was done talking in circles. He said it meant he would handle everything properly now. He told me he would handle everything properly as a phone alarm labeled "Paper drop 11:05 a.m." flashed between us on the coffee table. The next day, I went to Evan's office tower, telling myself he wanted to talk. The lobby was busy, people rushing past security. A man in a plain blazer asked my name, confirmed my address, and handed me a thick envelope. He said I was being served with a civil complaint and a petition for dissolution of marriage. Inside, my rooftop word sat in black print beside temporary orders about Nora and the apartment. When I looked up, Evan was already stepping into the elevator, Brian and Celeste beside him, his face turned away. In the office tower lobby, the process server put the lawsuit and divorce petition into my hands, while Evan let the elevator doors close between us.